What are you at? It's been a while since we've had a good chat. I know that we've ran into each other a few times at festivals in the last few years, but it's also been it's been a long time since I was down there and since I had a good chat with you. And we're just coming off the end of the 60th Philly Folk Fest, which just ended, which is still kind of wrapping up. I guess it was this weekend, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
fill
it
me in on
just
all that.
well, we just had the 60th annual Philadelphia Folk Festival. It took place the 18th to the 21st of August. We're always kind of that third weekend in August, and we were both in person for 4 nights, 3 days, 7 stages going, and then we were also digital online streaming. We did two digital festivals during the pandemic, and so we wanted to continue to do that for um, accessibility because just because we're able to have this wonderful festival again, we're kind of in this postage stamp of Pennsylvania, and for
Hmm.
people that are up in Canada or other parts of the world, or people that may have mobility issues and can't join us, we want them to be able to still enjoy all of the show. So we streamed three of our stages live. The other four we recorded and then cut and then put up after the fact.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing that you're still doing that. That was something that I noticed when I started doing the online thing during COVID is how many people are, even now that COVID is kind of, quote unquote over, um, the there are so many people out there that still tune in every week because they are homebound for a reason. And that's become a big thing, a big apparent thing for me is that there are a lot of people out there who, can't actually get out to these things. And I especially, working with my wife now too, like she would have a hard time navigating the Philly Folk Fest in her wheelchair. So yeah, so it's great that you're doing that. Well,
Yeah,
how,
we had over 7,000 people stream it live from 72 countries, which was pretty damn cool.
that's amazing, eh? What a silver lining in all the crap we've went through.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I have to say I don't think we ever would have done this if it weren't for the pandemic. It was something that, of course, was a twinkle in our eye, but when do we ever have the time or the resources or the money to take folk music into the future? So the pandemic kind of forced us to do that.
Well, that's like I say, that's a good silver lining. And how was the highlight? I saw that you had everything from like big name acts to napkin folding and puppeteering this year as well.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. A lot of people were just very happy to be back. We for those who've never been, have the festival on an 84-acre farm just outside of Philadelphia in Upper Salford Township, PA. And people were just so happy to be there. Normally, people will just completely say hi to strangers. It's kind of our culture.
Yep.
People will say kind of happy fest. That's their warm welcome and greeting. But this year, everybody was pretty much saying welcome home. So we were really happy to bring people back. Saw full grown adults fall to their knees and cry when they got on site. It was just very, really emotional for a lot of people. But then also acknowledging there were a lot of people that couldn't be with us. Gene Shea, one of our founders and our MC from 1962 to 2018, passed away from COVID in May of 2020, as well as a number of performers that have played, as well as a ton of attendees and volunteers. So we were just really happy to all be back together again. And I think the music spoke for itself. It was an absolutely phenomenal 4 nights and 3 days of music.
So you obviously know all the acts that played from the smallest stages to the biggest. So asking you who a surprise would be an inaccurate question, but who did you bring in that sort of was a newcomer to the scene that you're really excited about?
Well, as you know, we present a lot of Canadians and a lot of foreign acts. This year was a bit of a challenge because a lot of people weren't visaed and ready to roll. I won't lie, when I went to the East Coast Music Awards and Folk Alliance International, I kind of was walking around to the Canadians going, P2, 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 anybody, P2? So we were really excited to have the Canadian artists that we did that did quite well and were received really well. Um, Abigail Lapel, Mike McKenna Jr. We were able to have Mo Kenny,
Mhm.
Justin Pearson in the East Wind. But I think the Canadian act that really captured the most attention and the most hearts and the most merch sales was Mama's Broke. which are a wonderful East Coast folk duo, and they really captured everything from the old folkies to the young Gen Zers, just with their really great takes on traditional music as well as really solid writing.
Hmm.
When it came to some of the other stuff, we had our other acts from around the world really were huge hits. We had a Finnish bluegrass band called Frigg, Frigg. That was a huge hit, but the biggest runaway show of the entire festival was a South Korean band called ADG7 or Aktangwangchi,
Right.
and they are doing modern Korean takes on historical shamanic folk songs. So this is Korean mysticism folk music that is done in a modern take, but using more of the traditional instruments. So we had instruments on site that we've never seen or heard before. So it was pretty exciting. I actually programmed them to be right in the smack dab of our Saturday night Martin guitar stage performance, because we had 5 acts that night, and I really wanted there to be kind of a progression of where we have been as an event to where we're going. So we started with, folk legends Tom Rush
Mhm.
and the Lee Boys to kind of show these incredible acts that have been a part of the fiber of who we are. And then we went to, again, ADG7, which is showing that folk music can mean so many different things in so many different cultures. And then after that, we had a hip hop act, Arrested Development, because it was
Mhm.
very important to me to show that hip hop is folk at its very core. It's storytelling. And I've wanted hip hop at the festival on the main stage for quite some time. It's been hard finding the right hip hop act that would be accessible to a folk audience, and Arrested Development did just the job. Not to mention that one of their lead singers was 7 months pregnant and got completely airborne
I saw
multiple times, so
that.
that was pretty exciting. And then we ended the night with Michael Fronte and Spearhead,
Mm.
which just was really lovely because he just has such a great message of peace and love, which I think the folk community had for quite some time. But I'll be quite honest, it feels almost in recent years that peace and love has become bitch and moan. So it was kind of nice to have somebody bring the peace and love back. And we've had a number of people tell us that the Saturday night concert, those 5 acts in particular, were some of the strongest we've ever had. Had one person who's come to everyone since 1962 say Michael Fronte was the best act we've had since Pete Seeger. So it was just a really wonderful weekend, and tons of other incredible performers from all over. But yeah, just really proud. I was really happy. We had over 33,000 people that came in person cumulatively, which was really great because the Board of Health wanted us to keep it under 35,000.
There you go.
So because we have to admit, COVID is still there. We had 2 performers we lost to COVID who weren't able to make it. So it is still very much a factor and something we're keeping an eye on.
It is. I know I said earlier it's kind of done. It's. I mean, the lockdown era of it is done, but it is still out there. I still walk to the grocery store. I want to carry a broomstick because I've never had it. So I feel like one of the last remaining characters on The Walking
I
Dead.
no, I've never had it either. My partner's had it twice and I haven't. So I just keep just joking. I'll donate my body to science at the end of this.
There you go. Question for you. The programming that you're doing there is very future forward, and it's very inclusive. How do you find the culture of folk music now? I know that when I sort of started delving into the folk community a few years back, a decade or so ago, when I started working with some of the gatekeepers, the radio people, and the older people that have been around for a long time, there was a reluctance towards new folk. I had a few of the folk DJs, return the CD to me saying, I can't use this because there's drums on it, stuff like that. Are you finding that that's shifting, and that some of the younger generation are coming in and starting to take the place of these older people as they're moving out of the radio gigs and stuff like that? Like, do you find the folk community is getting more forward looking the way that you guys are as a festival?
Absolutely. When I first started as the executive director of the Philadelphia Folk Song Society and Philadelphia Folk Festival in 2015, I will never forget that a man came up to me and said to me, "If you know who wrote the song, it's not folk music." And I said, "Oh my God, I am so sorry. I'll take all of the names off of the poster. I'll just put the logo on. I'm so sorry, sir." He didn't like that response. That being said, I saw him this year and I asked him what he thought of the event and the program, and he said he was really blown away by it. And for him, it folk music is about the oral tradition. It's people passing songs down. So having other artists cover and play other artists' songs and tell those stories and keeping those stories going and alive was at the core of folk music for him. For
Hmm.
me, folk music's interesting. That it's to a lot of people outside of the community, it's a four-letter F word. It's a bad word. It's a naughty word. We a lot of people have moved towards Americana and so on and so forth. Which if you Google it, that word isn't very old. Americana's only been around for a couple of years, and that
Yeah.
was to try to kind of find that bridge between folk and country that a lot of people were being described as alternative, and we thought we could get better words for it. But folk music for me, again, is all about the either marriage or divorce of storytelling and musicality. And I think a lot of people are recognizing that definition on are allowing for that to expand their horizons of what folk music is. Sure, we've had a lot of people that have been coming since the 60s, but we had a number of people that were there this year for the first time, or the first time in a couple of years, that were just very, very taken with the programming and what it did and what it represented. So I think the future is all right. I think that there are a lot of people that are out there that are willing to broaden what the definition of that four-letter F word is.
That's really exciting to hear. I'm glad that you're doing such great work down there. Everybody is good in the family and stuff. Is your mom the official photographer for the festival now?
Lisa
Different
Schaefer
Lisa. Oh
is the
yes,
official, yeah.
I
Lisa
saw
Schaefer is
Lisa
the
on the photo and I
official
thought, oh yeah.
photographer. Yeah. My mom is doing some really great work with the Cambridge Folk Festival now over in the UK.
Oh wow.
That's what she's been focusing on, which is pretty neat. For those of you that don't know, I grew up at the Philadelphia Folk Festival. My mom and dad took me to my first one when I was 4 months old. They actually met at the Philadelphia Folk Festival. So if it wasn't for this event, I literally would not be here. So it is incredibly important to me to make sure that it not only survives but thrives, that it has a great legacy, that it's around for 60 more years. So we're working towards that. And yes, technically this would have been our 61st. But hell, if I was going to waste an anniversary year on 2021. So last year we had a 59 and a half.
Okay.
And then this year we celebrated our 60th.
I got a little confused by that too because I was doing 60th and went, wasn't the 60th last year? Okay, so that's how you got around that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was one of those things where a lot of people told me it was blasphemy, and then I said, "Oh well, so was electric guitar, but Dylan did it, so I'm gonna
Exactly.
just make my decision."
Good for you. Good for you. I know you've got a billion things on the go. You're just getting out of the festival grounds and getting home to your home office, or you're probably in the city office. I just wanted you to talk about one more thing because you had mentioned the preservation and the growth of the Philly Folk Fest. The Philly Folk Fest and what you do is so much more than that. The Philly Folk Song Society also does a ton of stuff throughout the year. Do you want to just talk about that a little bit? Some of the stuff that you guys do down there that helps support the festival?
Sure, thanks, Ken. I appreciate you often asking. So we are not just this event. We also have a music school that runs year round, the Philadelphia Folk School. We do everything from classes for the littles, which we call wee folk for ages 0 to 2. Then we've got our PB and jammers for kids 2 to 5, and then our Looney Tuners for ages 5 to 9. And that's all just basically introducing kids to music and to let them know all the different rhythms and instruments and get them started early. Looney Turners, the way that's set up is we call it the instrument petting zoo, where each week they get a different instrument to hold and to touch and to make noise with, and so that by the end of the 8 weeks they'll have kind of held and played with a guitar, a banjo, a fiddle, keys, mandolin, just to kind of see what all of these different instruments are, how they feel, what they sound like, and kind of get kids excited about playing music and making music and making it accessible. Our other education program, the Odyssey of American Music education program, has been around since 1974. We go into Philadelphia area schools where they've cut the music programs, and we do music lessons, instrument lessons, and in-class concerts. In 1974, it was completely a novelty, sending folk musicians into schools. In 2022, it's so much more of a necessity. There's less music programs in our schools than there have ever been before in the history of the district, and we're trying to get in front of as many students as we can, so that we can make sure they know that music bolsters every part of their education, and let them know that they can really do anything that they want to, and the magic of music, and put everything behind that. We also have a venue that we opened in Philadelphia in the last couple of years, and it's a pretty spiffy 180 seat listening room. It's 2 stories with a mezzanine, so you can either sit up top or if do sitting or standing, depending on the concert, for down below. And it's a place for people to come and really connect with music and enjoy music, not for kind of people to come and stand around and talk, but for people to really grab and connect with lyrics, which is super incredibly important, again, to that definition of folk music that I hold dear. And then we have a membership program, and you get through the membership program free monthly concerts, but then also access to our archives, because the founders of the event and of this organization had a huge amount of foresight, and they have recorded literally every festival since 1962, either audio and video since the 70s. We've been recording audio of our concerts since the 1950s. We have audio of Bob Dylan playing a basement in the late 50s in Philadelphia. We've got Levon Helm's last recorded performance. We have Jim Croce's last recorded performance. We have one of John Denver's last recorded performances, and just so many more. And so we try to open those up and make them accessible to our members, and we open them up with the festival. So if people grab a digital festival ticket at folkfest.org, not only can you go back and rewatch this year's festival if you missed it, you can actually go and dip into those archives and see just some absolutely legendary performances.
And that's just the regular website that would get you to that area, eh? Okay.
Yep. If you go to folkfest.org and you go to ticketing and go to digital tickets, anybody right now through the end of August can grab a digital ticket for access to the archives in this year's festival.
What an amazing service you guys are providing down there. Everything, starting with the kids right on through to the adults, lifelong members. It's an amazing festival. I was down a few years ago. Thank you for having me, and I absolutely loved it. The people were so friendly. I've got some photos that I'll show after our little chat here, and I'll catch people up to speed on that. But what an amazing event, amazing people. The sort of is it the hippie culture? Is that still sort of what that sort of the tenting crowd is called? Whatever that has turned into in a modern age is so friendly and so accessible. I couldn't believe walking around the grounds and people just coming up and talking to me. And after I performed, because I did several stages, just the commentary, I had one artist who painted a picture while I was playing and gave me the picture afterwards and stuff like that. It was a really, really interesting festival you've got down there. And congratulations on the 60th. That's amazing.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you for being a part of our history. And definitely looking forward to hopefully having you and the family down sometime in the not too distant future to do it all over again.
That would be fantastic. Justin, thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. This will be on tonight. And people have been really enjoying these chats. They get to meet musicians and artists and people behind the scenes like yourself. And it's always really interesting to hear the stories. So I appreciate you taking the time to continue spreading the word.
No, I appreciate you having me on, Ken, and I'm just also appreciative that my phone voice has come back because my announcer voice is still not here yet. So
Yeah, it'll probably take a couple days for that one.
yeah, forgot about that and blew it all out the first night.
So what's the next 3 days look like for you? Wrapping up something like this. What do you do now for the next 72 hours?
Oh yeah, a lot of other people are going home and catching up on sleep. I still haven't. I worked all day Monday and Tuesday, getting a lot of stuff off site and a lot of things packed up and wrapped up, and a lot of our vendors settled and squared away. I'm now back in the office. It's time to kind of set things back up here. Go through a lot of our merch so that we can make it accessible to anybody that missed out. So you can get a 60th welcome home tee or whatever it is that you would like. And yeah, just trying to make sure that things are all settled and squared away, and then start working on the next one.
Excellent. Well, I hope to run into you sometime soon. I'm getting out of the house a little bit more these days, which is nice. Allison's recovery is going slowly, but it is happening. So I'm able to go out and do a few shows here and there, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to getting back into the conference scene because that's where we usually meet up and have a lot of fun. So I look forward to seeing you again sometime.
You too. Send my love to Allison.
I will. You take care.
You too. Bye, Ken. Thanks.
Bye.